Hi, I'm Tony Nichols, and welcome to Chamber Chat. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Chamber Chat. We'd also like to thank our sponsor of this program, Innovative Benefit Solutions. As always, we'd like to let you know that Chamber Chat is a program put together by the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce for the sole purpose of keeping you informed on what's going on at the Chamber. In this edition, the divisional discussion is going to come out of the Community Outreach and Education Division of the Chamber. This division looks at a broad area of topics ranging from recycling to beautification to education and even arts and entertainment. We're actually joined today by Jon Sapp, the chair of the Beautification Committee with the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Glad to have you. The Beautification Committee, I've actually sat on that committee a couple of times. Do a lot of good things, but tell us in your words or the words of the Chamber, what's the Beautification Committee about?
I mean, our goal is pretty simple in general. We aim to just make Salisbury a more beautiful place than it is today.
That's as a profound and simple all at the same time as I think you could get, because initially that's a pretty simple statement, but I would imagine that when you put feet to the ground, that gets a little more broad than just making Salisbury beautiful.
You know, you got to generally keep mission plans pretty short.
That's right.
There's a couple different things that we try to focus on. One is we try to partner up with the businesses in the local community, because it's important in general just to have a good face on your business. We partner with a lot of them. We do a lot of river walk and cleanups and stuff like that in the local area that the businesses really help in on. Okay. We also work with the government a lot. They assist us as well as we assist them with local zoning and policies as far as cutting your grass and just things of that nature that we review every couple of years or so. Mm-hmm. They also partner up and help us in a lot of our ventures as well. A good example is recently in April we did a cleanup of an area in Salisbury, and a couple of the council members actually came out and created their own team, and then we worked with some of the released inmates, and they came by and
what was that called? It was the Great Salisbury Cleanup.
The Great Salisbury Cleanup.
Very good.
It was actually really successful. It was our first one. We're really looking forward next year to expand it further and do more.
So that's going to be an annual event?
Yeah, yes, that's our plan. We really weren't sure what we were getting into this year, so we kind of kept it small, and we were really surprised at how many people came out. We had at least 50 people out there, and not including the inmates that were riding around, and they were just picking up the general trash. We had pickup locations, and they would come and get it, and overall it was a great event.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, you know, that the Chamber has a beautification network, if you will, because when companies are looking to move to an area or people are looking to move to an area, it's, you know, they're looking at schools, they're looking at the neighborhoods, they're looking at the shopping, but they're also looking at what the city looks like.
Oh yeah.
So I think it really matters that when you partner with a business, it's not only, you know, there's a big initiative on Main Street, but it's not about Main Street, it's about the entire city. So the fact that one of the areas that I see around town, most of the time you see them when you're at a stoplight. The triangles around Salisbury, is that part of the Chamber's initiative?
Yeah, actually we have a couple different ways that we do the triangles, as far as some of them are sponsored by organizations and businesses in the local community, and we maintain them. They pay a fee, and we maintain the triangles for them. And the other way is they have living tributes as well, where if a family member has passed away, you're able to purchase a triangle in their name. We actually have about 40 triangles located around town, and we maintain and upkeep them depending on what people want in there. Sometimes we plant different things. We try to keep it fairly, I don't know what the correct word would be for it, but we try to keep the plants so that they're not going to die.
Gotcha.
You know, we try not to get fragile plants because we can't upkeep it every month. The other thing that we also do, aside from the triangles, that's probably fairly noticeable is the welcome sign when you're coming in Salisbury.
Okay.
Located off Nanacoke.
Also, that's not a city or a county initiative. That's done by the chamber.
Yeah, we actually just recently updated the sign and spruced it up a little bit with some paint, and we actually got a new member in there and put a new sign up there, and it should be looking pretty good right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's going on this fall? Anything tracking this fall with the chamber?
Well, we'll have our monthly river walks that we do, and we try to keep track of that. You know, always downtown the river, we got to keep it looking nice, and we always have great participation through the community with companies that are always doing that. So we have that going on all fall long, and then we're kind of in a transitional phase right now in the chamber, where we're actually merging with what was previously the recycling committee.
Okay.
And we're now going to be the Beautification and Environmental Affairs. And
big name.
Yeah, I know. I like it. It actually it's going to help us expand not only our membership but our scope.
Right.
And that we've already been involved in recycling and initiatives of that nature. But this way, one of the big things the recycling committee was on was education and really getting out in the community and letting them know about the things that are progressive as far as recycling and green technology and things of that nature. So it's good for us because now we can focus on education as well, and we can really harness some of the things that they were focusing on previously.
How often do you guys meet?
We meet once a month, the first Thursday of every month, and
I would assume you're looking for a few willing participants.
I was about to give my pitch.
Go ahead.
You know, we're always looking for new members that are willing to help and want to get out in the community and make Salisbury a more beautiful place, and yeah. We could always use new members.
Fantastic, John. Thanks for joining us and telling us about what's going on with the Beautification Committee at the Chamber.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
Well, you're watching Chamber Chat on PAC 14. Here's a look at what's going on at the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to Chamber Chat. I'm Tony Nichols, your host, and joining us now is this edition's sponsor, Lynn Creasy with Innovative Benefit Solutions. Welcome to the program, Lynn.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Lynn, you're here to talk about, in my opinion, one of the things that every now and then something comes across that will affect every person in the country. This has the potential to do just that. What are you here to talk about?
The Affordable Care Act, also known as Healthcare Reform, and PPACA, Patient Protection, Affordability, and Care Act.
I've heard all of those acronyms, or those acronyms, the Affordable Care Act, PACA, Obamacare. Tell us what that is. What does that mean?
That was a law that was enacted back in March of 2010 for the sole purpose, or the main purpose, of making sure that every individual in the United States has access to affordable health insurance.
Okay.
And the last 3 years we've been building up to 2014, where many changes are going to be implemented, including the individual mandate, which means if you are an individual, you have to have health insurance. If you don't, you'll pay a penalty. The guaranteed issue, if you have a medical condition, you no longer have to worry about being denied health insurance. The health insurance exchanges, each state is required to create an online marketplace where we can go and shop for health insurance. The SHOP, which is the Small Business Health Options Program, so that's an exchange for small businesses. And then the pay or play mandate was pushed back to 2015, but that's a mandate where employers with 50 or more full-time equivalents have to offer health insurance or pay a penalty, but that's been postponed until 2015.
That's the employer mandate that we were talking about that was postponed.
Correct.
Is the pay or play.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. You talked a little bit about their exchanges. Go back over that, if you will, in terms of, because that's where we all have to go to. Is this a storefront, or is this? You said, was it an online marketplace?
It's an online marketplace. An exchange is a website where you can go and shop for health insurance. And the reason someone would want to do that is because they're at 400% of the federal poverty level or less, which is $45,960. So if I make $45,960 or less a year, I can go into the exchange and see if I qualify for a subsidy.
Is that an individual or family?
That's individual.
Individual.
Yep, and that's 400% of the federal poverty level. If I make 250% of the federal poverty level or less, then in addition to having my premium subsidized, I may also be eligible for a cost-sharing option, which will help subsidize maybe a deductible or some co-insurance or co-pays. So carriers will offer plans in the exchange and outside of the exchange. The reason I would want to look in that online marketplace is to see if I qualify for some of those subsidies.
Okay. Is Maryland prepared, or is Maryland ready for the exchanges to be open? I'm assuming every state has to have their own set of exchanges.
Yes, they do. Every state has to either have their own, they have to partner with the federal government, or they can defer to have the federal government set it up for them. Maryland has set their own up and managing it. They've been on the forefront. They're ready. All the carriers' plans are in. They're approved. Rates are approved. The Maryland Exchange, it's called the Healthcare Connection. They are in the process of training insurance producers to be able to assist their clients with purchasing health insurance in the exchange.
Okay. What does this mean for me? I've already got health insurance. What does this mean for people that might already have health insurance? Do we have to go into the exchange and deny coverage or look for something else?
You don't. The exchange really is designed for individuals that don't have health insurance. It opens October 1st, so people can shop October, November, and December, and the effective date would be January or thereafter, depending on when they want it.
Okay, so the exchange is open in October 1st.
Correct.
But I guess we're shopping, I guess, until January the 1st, or?
Right, you can go in October 1st, you see a plan you like, you apply, it won't go in effect until the earliest January 1st.
Okay, all right, so January the 1st, then if I don't have coverage, that's when the potential of fines or penalties could kick into place, I would assume.
Correct.
Because that's when the actual law kicks in January of 2014.
Correct.
Okay, I'm with you. What does this mean for employers?
Well, it depends on the size. For small employers, which is 50 full-time equivalent or less, what's going to happen for them in 2014 is plan designs will change. So when their group plan renews, there will be new plans that meet the federal minimum essential guidelines. In addition, how a plan is rated, how a premium is calculated changes. Today it's based on, for example, if I'm covering myself and a child, whether I have one child or 5 children, my rate is the same. In 2014, it's going to be adding up all of those covered. So for an employee with 1 child, it's my rate plus my child's rate. For an employee with 5 children, it's the 3 oldest children. So conceivably, I could be paying more if I have more children. In addition, if I'm younger, I'm going to pay a lesser premium than someone who is older.
Okay, so the pre-existing conditions don't apply, but another change would be that if I do have a large family and over 3 children, then it could cost more based on more. There's no more parent and child meaning all-inclusive for all children, no matter how many you have.
That is correct. In addition to small businesses being affected in 2014, couple of things that will affect all businesses, no matter the size, are the 90-day eligibility. If I'm an employer that offers health insurance, my waiting period, once I renew my plan, can be no more than 90 days. And effective 2014, full-time is considered 30 hours. So if an employee works 30 hours or more and I offer health insurance as a company, they are now eligible for coverage, whereas before it could be anywhere from 30 to 40. Now it's 30.
How do I find out about the exchanges?
One way is through the exchange notification. All employers that are subject to the Fair Standard Labor Act are required to give all of their employees, whether they offer health insurance or not, an exchange notification. It's a letter. There are model notices on the Department of Labor website. So I would pick the one that applies to my company. I offer health insurance or I don't. And I have to distribute that to all of my employees by October 1st. So this is the major way that they're going to make sure everyone is aware of these exchanges.
So this letter is standardized. Everybody's going to use the same letter, or
It's standardized, but there's a section to fill in depending on whether or not you offer health insurance and contact information within your company.
So the employers go find that, and then for all their current employees, give them that letter, and I'm assuming for all future employees when they come to work, they will get that.
Correct. Yes.
Well, Lynn, that's some information. I'm sure it took a lot of weeding through. You certainly made it sound a lot simpler than I'm sure it is, and I'm sure you had to spend a little more time than the time you spent here researching it. We certainly thank you for coming on Chamber Chat and explaining that, because it's something that we need to be informed about, because at some point we could certainly be faced with having to go into the exchange, whether you lose your job or whatever the case may be, right. And we need to have some idea of what direction to go. You've helped us in that direction, so we thank you for being on Chamber Chat.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Well, again, I'd like to thank Lynn Creasy for being here, and also Innovative Benefit Solutions for being a sponsor of this edition of Chamber Chat. In case you missed them, here's another opportunity to take a look at the upcoming events with the Salisbury Chamber. Welcome back. You're watching Chamber Chat on Pack 14. And with us now is Andrew Todd, the Supervisor of Mathematics for the Wicomico County Board of Education. Welcome to the program, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
Andrew, you're here to talk today. We've talked before, and you seemed pretty passionate about an initiative that's going on not only here in Wicomico County, but really across the country. Tell us what that is.
Common Core State Standards, and yeah, I'm really excited. It's an unbelievable time for educators, just because for the first time ever, we have one set of standards that were created by both educators and experts in their fields in terms of looking at what's working, both in our country and in neighboring countries, and creating one set of standards that's consistent for all grades in all states.
By saying we're now moving to one set of standards, I'm assuming that prior to this, there hasn't been a consistent set of standards that we've been able to judge the students by or test the students by.
Well, standardized education's been around for quite some time. The problem with that is that each state had their own unique set of standards. So the idea being, let's put together the smartest, the best, and the brightest, and let's create something that's consistent and coherent that can progress students from kindergarten through high school with the intent of trying to prepare students for college and career.
Okay, so across the board, you're applying the same application across the board rather than each state having their own set of standards.
Correct.
That makes sense. What are you teaching?
Well, the big difference with Common Core isn't so much the stuff in which it's being taught. I mean, math is still math, 1 and 1 still make 2. Okay. But the big difference with the Common Core in terms of what you're teaching is we're focusing on the reasoning and the thinking behind the mathematics. It's algorithms and skills are still part of math, of course, but a big change is that we're now focusing on trying to prepare students to try to figure things out on their own, because we're learning that math, it goes beyond the walls of our classroom, so it's just as important to understand the why behind the mathematics rather than just the skill of what is the mathematics.
I'm pretty simple-minded, so what I'm equating in my mind right now is when I turn the light switch on, the light comes on, and I never question why the light turns on. So what I'm hearing is not only the 1 + 1 is 2, but why is that so, or the algorithms in the calculus or whatever. It's the why behind it. How is that different than in previous years?
Well, if you think back probably to some of your own math experiences with teachers in middle school or high school, you probably envision a teacher standing in front of the classroom and showing you a series of problems and a lot of repetitive steps, and then you do the token homework assignment that has 30 problems that you do over and over and over and over again. Right. Which in and of itself, you learn the skill and you can certainly repeat it back, but the problem comes when you try to actually apply it. And like I said, when you leave the classroom and you're actually trying to go out in the real world, where these skills actually fit in. So if you really don't understand the why behind the math, the concept, you're not able to do much with it once you leave the walls of that classroom.
Are you talking about the questions that I always loved, tongue-in-cheek, at the end of the homework assignment, the extra credit stuff, Johnny has 2 apples and gives one away. Is that the kind of stuff that you're talking about?
Well, you know, if you think in a traditional sense, those word problems that kind of got tacked at the end, and students always say, I always had trouble with those.
They were always at the end, too.
Yeah, they always were. Well, with Common Core, the idea is understanding those from the beginning. So often now, we're actually starting with the context, we're starting with the application, and we're trying to shift the spotlight of thinking onto the students. So instead of the teacher physically walking through the steps of how to solve this particular word problem, there's a lot more think about type questions where the entire lesson is devoted to trying to get kids to understand what is actually happening within the application. So actually, applications are a large part of the Common Core shift.
You talked about it a couple of times. Dig into a little more, if you will, how the teacher interacts differently with the student.
Well, it really focuses more on student thinking rather than teacher explaining. The teachers are now more of questioners and probes, and they probe students in terms of their thinking. The word why is asked often in a math classroom. The skills are still there, but the idea is to try to get the students to think and figure things out for themselves and create their own sense of understanding. So what we're trying to do is ask much broader questions and really getting kids to try to think and discover things on their own.
So less, there will always be a certain degree of lecture, I would assume, in a classroom setting, but less lecture, more communication style interaction between the student and the teacher?
Interaction is huge, and I think lecture sometimes gets a negative connotation. Teachers are still teaching,
sure.
But the way in which they are presenting information is more from a questioning standpoint rather than a telling. The teacher is asking students questions. Students interact with the math. Math classrooms right now are much more active than what they may have been in the past. I say all the time, we need to teach our students to be active learners rather than passive listeners. Mm-hmm. So the idea for teachers is to try to get students to interact with the mathematics, with each other, and with them.
So it's getting the teachers to understand that, you know, at the end of the day, it's about the teacher and the teacher's style and how they connect with the student. But it's about the student and not the teacher.
That's exactly right. The spotlight is solely on the student in terms of trying to get the student to figure the things out. So, and that's a large shift.
Yeah, that's a different paradigm, because historically, when I was going to school and we wrote on tablets, rock tablets. It was about sitting in the classroom, listening to the teacher, taking whatever notes. If we were a good note taker and we actually studied the notes that we took, we did well, and if we didn't, it was not a good grade. So it's more of I'm seeing more of an interaction and questioning and probing the students in such a way where they're geared to respond rather than to just soak that in. What courses are included in the Common Core curriculum?
Well, Common Core goes from kindergarten through grade 8, and in high school, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, with the idea that once a student finishes and completes Algebra 2, then they are then ready for college and career, and that's the whole design of the curriculum once you get into the high school.
Yeah, you can tell pretty easily your passion in the mathematics field, because it comes out. Why am I just hearing about Common Core now?
Well, Common Core actually came around 2010, but with legislation requirements, we still were locked into an assessment system with standards which were not Common Core. So what we started to do 3 years ago is we began looking at the instructional side of Common Core, because see, with Common Core, like we've talked about before, it's not just what we're teaching, not just the standards, but it's how we actually have to interact with the standards, how we can present those standards. So we focused on the teachers in how they present material, whether it be Common Core standards or the former Maryland curriculum. So we've been working with teachers on their teaching style and their teacher delivery. We've been working with them on strategies. And so Common Core, in terms of instructional strategies and the way that we present material, we've actually been working on and have been coming through for the last several years. In regards to the actual curriculum changes, we've been bringing standards in slowly because of the assessment requirements by legislation. But starting this year for grades K through 8 in geometry, all of those courses are aligned completely to Common Core.
How about parents? Parents' role change or shift, or pretty much the same role and just support the kids? And
Well, parents' role is always and going to continue to be forever and ever to support their child. And like I said before, the mathematics is still the mathematics. But in terms of parents actually helping students, although the math's the same, students may be coming home and bringing different ways of attacking problems that may be different than the parents actually seen. My thought is to embrace that. One of the big things in Common Core, it's practice number 3, is critiquing others' reasoning. And when a parent has an idea of how to solve a problem, certainly present that to the problem and have the student try to critique the reasoning and kind of dissect why that happens. You know, and also from the parent standpoint, embrace the fact that the child might be coming back with different strategies and embrace those as well.
Right.
Parents don't have to be content experts, but what parents need to do is kind of ask questions and support. And one big piece of Common Core is perseverance from students, because the problems do require a lot of thinking. It does get beyond the skill. And so really supporting the student as they're working through these problems is one of the biggest roles that a parent can do.
Andrew, if we can clone you and sprinkle you around, your passion is pretty evident. We'd like to thank you for coming and sharing what Common Core is and how it hopefully is going to make a positive impact on our kids.
I really appreciate it. I think Common Core is a great thing.
Well, thank you for watching this edition of Chamber Chat. We'd like to thank Lynn, Creasy, and Innovative Benefit Solutions for being the sponsor of this edition of Chamber Chat. And as always, we'd like to hear from you. If you have any suggestions on topics, or if you'd like to appear on Chamber Chat, you can do so by contacting the Chamber of Commerce. If you'd like to watch this edition of Chamber Chat or any past editions of Chamber Chat, we would like you to go to PAC 14's website and utilize their on demand feature, or you could go to the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce's website and click on the Voice blog. It will be hosted there as well. Well, that's a wrap on this edition of Chamber Chat. I'm Tony Nichols, your host, encouraging you to make a difference.